Naturally spread.
Wow! Come on. Groove it over.
It's the intro. Okay, you're live.
Oh, we're live. All right, cool. Welcome, hello everyone, and welcome to the 2025 AGM for the Canadian Association of Stand-Up Sketch and Improv Comedians. Yeah! Listen, look at that. Y'all came rock. Appreciate it. Thank you for joining us online. My name is Clifford Myers. I am the president of this wonderful association, and we have a wonderful AGM for you. We are going to be discussing our partnership with the CFU today, the community chapter of Unifor, and all the cool things that are going to come with that. And I get the pleasure of doing an opening speech that I did not prepare. Enjoy. Right? I had a long ride here though, so I think I got it. But one of the things I've been thinking about a lot, so we're going into 2025 right now, and last year, there was a lot of confusion coming out of the pandemic. What was the direction of the association going to be? And that's when we really came together and we partnered with Unifor. We really wanted some tangible results going forward to be able to provide resources for comedians. So this year, as we continue to think about what's next, I've been kind of thinking about one thing over and over again, and this is the 2025 question. It's what is real? Okay, I've been thinking about this one a lot, right? We're seeing the rise of a lot of things, like we're seeing tariffs affecting every business in Canada, right? We're getting a lot of rah, buy Canadian, buy local. You can ask, we've been saying it the whole time. Sandra's been saying this since 2017, but we needed tariffs to get the damn message, right? I don't know what's real. I don't know if they meant it or they just want our neighbors to be nicer to us. I don't know, you know? But I wonder, because I do corporate comedy and I meet people all the time. What's the frustration? We want to work from home. We want to go back to office. There's these wars between people. No one knows what's real. Can we do the job here? Can we do the job there? AI. That's making the whole internet unbelievable. I just got an offer from an AI Joe Rogan, and I was like, oh, my big break, you know? All he needs is the credit card. Let's go, you know? Nothing that we really look at nowadays, we don't really know what's real, but I'm going to tell you all what is real with Canadian comedy in 2025. With our research, what we've looked into, this is what's real where we're at right now. What is real is that club sales on the weekends are up. They're rebounding from the pandemic. Wonderful. During the week, still soft. People don't want to go out. Independent shows, thriving more than ever. People are being very clever in how they put on festivals, how they put on independent production grants, starting record labels. There's a lot of good stuff in that regard. With the festivals, we still got the big three. Winnipeg, Halifax, JFL, they're the ones that are making profit. Everyone else is kind of dipping right now. Except we have some new upstarts in the game, like Departure coming in. And so we do have some things to look forward to, but realistically, across the board, Canadian brands are struggling in the festival market unless you're one of the big three. That's just kind of the way it is right now. In terms of corporate comedy, there's never been a higher demand than right now. Corporate comedy is as high as it's ever been. People are thirsty for educational content. Content that's not just going to make them laugh, but also make them learn something and excited to do something. And culture and HR specialists are looking for comedians who know how to do this work. This is definitely something that we've been considering and thinking a lot about as an association. How do we get comedians more corporate work? How do we get them prepared craft-wise to be able to do corporate work? This is something that we're going to be talking about a lot today during our fireside. But the big question for me, when I'm asking what is real in Canadian comedy, I'm going to tell you straight up what's real. What's real is in 2017, Sandra Battellini wrote a letter saying that comedians are not recognized as artists in Canada, and in 2025, that's still true. Right? Right. That's still true. We're still, on a federal level, not considered artists in Canada. But here's something else that's real. We are considered freelancers, okay? And that's a big part of what today's talk is going to be about. It's about the comedian as the freelancer, right? We're not just artists. There's a craft to what we do. We get paid work. We get to be a self-brand. And that's part of our partnership with the Canadian Freelance Union. We're going to have way more resources and ability to be able to educate anyone within the association on how to be a personal branded freelancer, right? Like, we are one-person businesses that are the star of our own shows. That's realistically what we are. So if the Canadian government, God bless them, don't want to recognize us as artists, well, we're pushing our way through either way. Because we're comedians and we're stubborn as fuck. And that's the way that works, right? So, yeah, I thought I was going to get a standing ovation, but that's fine. No, it's fine. I was expecting people running out of here with banners like, Clifford, yeah, next Che Guevara. But no, that's fine. Yeah, it's one of those things where we really are in a position where it's going to become about self-ownership and self-authorship, how you represent yourself professionally, how you create work for yourself. It really is about getting your original voice, your original audience, and developing your network, the people that you work with and the people you collaborate with. So with us, I said this quote to death, and I'll keep saying it. It's a Jimmy Carr quote, but with comedians, we're all out for ourselves, but we're in this together, right? In our association, we recognize your independence. We recognize your autonomy, but we're in this together in terms of learning together, learning how to upskill together, and learning how to just win our own fucking game. And so that's really what we're trying to focus in on as an association at this point in 2025, is how do we empower the comedian to grow professionally? How do we empower them to be able to get a website, market themselves, build an audience, get more stage work, get more touring work, even writing writers' packages. What does this all look like? And we're going to do this very practically. We're going to be creating an internal education hub. We're going to be creating opportunities to come to virtual speaking events where we'll bring in a marketer. I even have a lawyer that will come in and tell you what your legal rights are. All these kind of things are stuff that we think are really pertinent to the comedian as a freelance worker. And this is stuff that we want to do so you guys are empowered to take your career into your hands. And I think that's something that's going to be really exciting to talk about today. We have a fireside chat later on where we have representatives from Unifor, from the CFU, and Sandra Baddeley, her damn self. And we are going to rock it. I'll be there leading that fireside. And so we'll ask a lot of questions. If you have questions, feel free to write it down and just stuff it to me. There's not a lot of us here, so you can just hand it to me. That's fine. And and we're just gonna rock and roll. We have a lot of announcements throughout. We have Amy and Drew from the board that are gonna be joining us virtually to tell you a bit more about the CFU announcement. But one of the things that I wanna leave off on is when I think about what's real, what I'm really looking at is I see a lot of people bouncing back from the pandemic. I see a lot of people new and hungry to learn comedy. And I think the more people we bring into this thing, the more people are going to see a pathway forward, not to just be a funny person, but a funny person who can get paid to be a funny person, right? That's something that we really want to try to hit home, is that's where we're going. And the more people that get attracted to this thing, the more we're able to incubate. And it's not about being Canada first. It really isn't about this kind of national pride, because we've talked to organizations from Ireland, from South Africa. They see what we're doing here in Canada, and it's just like the comedy pioneers before us. We're just doing something first, right? It's no different than JFL in the early days and Yucks in the early days. It's no different than that. But we have people that want to know, how are we doing this? How are we lining up partnerships? How are we running our association? How are we getting members? And this is something that we're all very transparent about, because we're comedians. We're the people that just couldn't do other jobs. And so this is the one that we got to do, but it's one that we're so proud and happy to do. And so we want to be able to not only educate our members internally, but globally outsource education so that way anyone can do this to where they're at. I would love to see an Irish association, an Indian association, and more funny people getting paid to be funny. And I think that we're getting the snowball rolling. It's a really exciting thing. And one thing I know that is very real is that in 2025, we're a day before an election. I think we can all agree the world right now just really isn't in a great place. It really needs comedy more than ever. And that's something that I'm going to bet on is 100% real. And this is the part where you clap for me. Thank you. Wow. It's almost like it's obvious that I didn't prepare. But no, we're having a wonderful time. And I really appreciate all you coming out. Can we also make noise for Comedy Bar for having us? Like, Gary and team, thank you so much, man. That's awesome. We appreciate the space. Now, I'm going to be bringing up Nick, our treasurer, who is going to be going over the really fun treasury stuff. But before I bring him up, I just want to say that Nick has served with us for how many years now, Nick? 4 years, and he is being put out to pasture. We are old yellering him. He is moving on to bigger and better things, but that is not going to plow down his absolute impact in this organization. He is the one that, he has been there through the pandemic. He has been such a cheerleader for this. I met Nick out in Hamilton, and it's one of the benefits of starting comedy a little older, because I was like, oh, a mature person in comedy. Hi, Unicorn. Nice to meet you, But it's been really awesome to see his even-tempered approach to really giving a shit about comedians. A lot of times when comedians aren't giving a shit about each other, and I really felt that he shined and he was a great representative on this organization. So if we can just give some love, let's give it up for Nick Drury. And thank you for all the work you've done, brother. All the sweet treasury that you have done for us.
I fucking hate following Twitter. I'm not going to be that loud. I'm not going to be that funny. I prepared for this. I prepared an Excel spreadsheet for this, so don't expect anything funny. Okay, I just want to talk a little bit about. Well, I think it's good. It's fantastic that you guys are here from Danforth and from CFU, because I think it's important to have this conversation. So I was thinking, do I go line by line of what we're budgeting or whatever? I think let's not do that. Let's just have a dialogue so you can see the reality of the financial situation that CASC is in, and have some ideas on how assistance can help. Because the reality is, when I took over as treasurer from Monty about 4 years ago, his strongest message to me was, all of our money goes to us existing. It goes to legal, it goes to accounting, it goes to insurance. And I'm going to walk you through how much that is. But as our in the last 3 years, I think, Joe, we've gone down from around 129 members to about 104.
Yeah.
As those have been declining slowly, which, attrition, whatever, I don't have any real insights on why that is. It obviously impacts the finances of CASC, right? So the finances have gone down, and the ability to exist as an organization is only getting more expensive, right? Accountants are charging us less every year, and legal and all that stuff. So I'll just walk through, sorry, this is awkward, but I want to walk through just what we spent last year so you can have an idea of what some of those numbers are, and then I'm going to walk you through what I proposed for the next fiscal. We spent just under $3,500 just on legal, just for lawyers to help us exist as an organization. We spent $3,000 on accounting. Part of that is we did have to file 2 years worth of taxes, so that number will go down. And then we spent $2,200 just on insurance. So that's we're almost at just at $9,000 right there, just to exist as an organization. Okay, so that's the sort of negative stuff, I suppose. Yeah, we spent just under $9,500 last year. Now, here's the really good news. We were charging members $50 a pop for the membership. With the addition of Unifor and CFU, we're now charging $125. So that gives us a really nice big boost. But that is predicated, and I'll walk through what that means first, but that means we have a bit of a buffer, but I think we need to focus on driving more memberships, right? And I think we need to really articulate the value proposition to individuals for why and what Unifor and CFU is going to do for us and why they should give us that 125, right? Continuously. Cliff and I were talking, you know, older veteran comedians can oftentimes be the most jaded and the ones who don't want to participate in things like this, and that's fine, and that's their prerogative. I think having a strategy around how we're attracting newer comedians and articulating that value proposition and getting them in early and keeping them is key. What else did I want to say? Okay, so what I'm proposing for the next, so we have 104 paid, I feel like doing a joke right now, but I'm not going to, like, one of my jokes for my act. But as soon as I grabbed this, I'm not going to do it. So I'm being a little bit assertive and aggressive in my proposal for how many I think we can get next year, but I want to get 120 paid members in CASC next year. So that is an increase of 16. I see, that's why I'm treasurer. But I think, like, I do have a 9-to-5 job. I come from the sort of corporate world, but we need it. It's one thing to just say 120 paid members. It's another thing to go out and actually do it. And I think having a plan for what we're going to do on a monthly basis to get those 16 people and, you know, when we're going to get them, I think is really important. And I know the board will be great in coming up with that plan. So if we get to 120 people, that's $15,000. That's pretty significant. So that leaves us with what we have currently in our bank account, which is just over $1,000. If we get 120, if we get to 120, I should say, at the 125 fee, that's 15,000, as I said, and all of a sudden we net out at just over $6,000 at the end of the year, which is pretty good, and it gives us a little bit more of a buffer. And I think also wanting to put our heads together with Unifor and with CFU around some of these administrative costs, and do we need to keep paying people to justify us as an organization, or are there things that we can do from a Unifor standpoint, from a CFU standpoint, resources you may have that could help in that? Because I think we can't do anything outside of what we're currently doing, which is existing as a business. We can't hire lobbyists, right? That's far too expensive on where we're going right now. We pay Jo to do marketing and advertising, but it's limited, and she's got a full-time job too, right? So I think putting our heads together, it's boring stuff, I know, but just coming up with ways that we can tackle some of those administrative type fees and costs would be fantastic. Any questions? Any comments? We can have a conversation. Yes.
So you said you were aggressive. You said 120.
No, I said 120.
Oh, okay.
Maybe, I don't know if you would call that, like, it's going down. So if you want to call that conservative, it could be conservative. I'm thinking, like, it's one, as I said, it's one thing to just say we're going to get 16 more members, but to actually do it. Did I? I meant 120, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That's anyone? Yes. Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Anything else? Any questions online?
No, just if we can zoom in the camera some more.
Can you wait till I'm done? That's it. That's all I got. I'm happy to share this Excel sheet with you all to have a look at it and go through it. But yeah, it's not that exciting, but it is what it is. And we did it. So I think I am bringing up. Oh, I actually, well, thank you, Clifford, for those kind words. It has been a real pleasure serving on this board with you all, especially Jo, your tireless work and all that, and Sandra, obviously, for, I think it was think I reached out to you when you initially announced this and did some things. And yeah, it's been great working with you all. Drew's been awesome. Amy, Josh, been great, man. So yeah, thank you all, and let's bring up Joe.
Hello. Hi, CASC. This is Amy and Drew joining you all remotely. I hope the sound is different. I don't know. I've been watching the chat. There's been a lot of comments on the sound. Hope this is a different sound, oral experience for you all. Amy, why don't you say hi as well?
Hi. Okay, now I'm getting feedback on me, so that means I'm canceled. I'm going on mute.
Okay. Well, thank you all for joining us today, both virtually and in person. We are here to break down a little bit about what's been going on with CASC since we joined with Unifor last year, some developments, and what the future holds in store. So, first off, as you guys all know, we voted a majority of the membership to become a part of Unifor and develop our own community chapter. In doing that, we had a lot of internal meetings with Unifor leadership and eventually decided that one of the best ways for us to become a stronger organization was to increase overall density and join forces in partnering with the Canadian Freelance Union, the CFU. So I think by now everyone's heard that name said a couple of times, the CFU. Who are the CFU? What are they? What do they represent? The CFU, as mentioned just a moment ago by myself, is the Canadian Freelance Union. They represent freelance workers across Canada. Surprising, I know. They represent those who work in journalism, those who work in interpretation, those who work in translating, musicians, so on and so forth. There's a lot of different freelance titles and positions that they represent. And through this partnership, they're going to offer their services as well to CASC members. So those services will include opportunities to have insurance coverage, legal and professional assistance, accreditation. And I think one thing that is maybe the most vital and has been a big development in CASC's operations this year is we've been putting together a database, and CFU has one existing for all of their freelance employees currently, where those looking for professionals, i.e. looking for someone to do translation or someone to do accreditation or whatever it may be that they're freelancing in, they can go to the CFU's database and they can find a list of their members and pull from that list to hire someone. So through our partnership with Unifor, we've really benefited from a lot of interest in labor unions in particular, but just organizations in general across the country reaching out and looking to see if they can hire comics for their events. And we've been fortunate to put them in touch with a few comics so far and get paid work for comics in provinces from Ontario to BC to Manitoba. But going forward, we want all cast members to be able to list themselves and their experience and their comedy in this database and have an opportunity to get paid work, because that's what this is all about at the end of the day. It's putting money in comedians' pockets, putting money in Canadian comedians' pockets in particular. So, as mentioned prior as well, Nora Loretto, the president of CFU, she flew in to Toronto today from Quebec City. She's going to be having a fireside chat and explaining a little bit more in detail about what it is that the CFU is all about and how they're primed to help Canadian comics and Canadians in general. I think especially on this election day eve, we really kind of are realizing what's at stake for our country and where we stand within it. So, it's great for us to be coming together with the CFU under the banner of Unifor and pushing for Canadian comedians, the Canadian people, and everyone having just an opportunity to grow their careers in Canada through solidarity. So I'll throw it over to Amy if you have anything else to add. I think she's got a couple of additional comments, but yeah, we're very excited about this and more to come.
Thank you, Drew. I think all I really want to say is that in addition to like some very immediate benefits that our members are getting by this partnership, I think CASC as an organization is also benefiting from CFU's history and the infrastructure that they've already, been building over the last number of years, and their just experience in building campaigns. And I'm really excited to work with them and learn from them and kind of apply what they have learned to our campaigns and to the things our priorities. And I am additionally excited about it now in this kind of clusterfuck universe that we're in, when it's even more important to be engaged and to increase our solidarity and our collective power. So this partnership really is helping both of our organizations in that way as well. And so understanding that that takes work from all of us, and it's Sunday afternoon, so I'm kind of just let the dictatorship happen, whatever. But on Monday, I'm gonna be no, okay, let's fight or what. So tomorrow I'm gonna be raring to go. And we really are hoping that other people want to get involved in CASC and in CFU, because especially there is an open board seat for a CASC member in BC. If that is you, let us know. And but whether you want to be directly involved in CFU or still with our CASC board, which is going to continue to exist, we're looking for some fresh blood to drink. Anyway, thank you all.
Did we not use up all of our time? I think. Yeah. There we go.
Good morning, no, like this. We're all gonna be able to speak to anyone, so you can't understand me now. But I'm a very confusing 5 minutes ahead of you. Since I'm here to talk about membership, I am the newest member to the CASC board. But before that, I was a regular member. I continue to be here now. And I truly believe the best thing I've done for my comedy career. At first, I was a little bit skeptical. I was so used to dealing with my comedy problems on my own. That's kind of what comedians do. But when I heard of my CASC, I was a little skeptical and thinking to myself, who the hell would help me with my comedy problems? I watched the kids, right? But I'm doing some research. I learned more about him and some of the things that Cliff was saying. And lawyer, the representative, and so it really got me. I'm really happy to be part of the board and join, and to know that I'm not alone anymore. It's, I think, the thing that most comedians are so used to doing is being alone in a problem called pain or a problem called opinion. Well, but we don't have to be alone anymore. I mean, there's a really great community here, and great benefits. And now we're joining CFU, what's on even more benefits like healthcare and dental. I mean, come on, doing comedy being able to have healthcare and dental. Nobody thought it would even be the thing, right? It's on my mind just talking about it. But you never thought you would like, you would be even close to that community. But it's here, reality. And if you join us, then you will get the free healthcare and dental. But I just wanted to say like the more members we have, the stronger we are together. We know how to do it alone. I just wanted to do a call for more investors. You know, if you're looking to be, you know, more involved in just a member, or maybe not a board member, you can definitely be the ambassador for your products on your territory. And they can help us be more in connection with the communities in your house. Before joining CASC, I never realized that like comedy was not recognized legally as an art form. But the fact that they did something cool, is amazing. Right now we have Quebec and Newfoundland and Labrador who recognize comedy legally as an art form. So, you know, 280 provinces and work starting, we're getting there. City provinces to go, it's 3 territories. But they'll be there before you know it was. But we find anything coming out of us. Pretty right? But you pretty much all I wanted to say. I don't think you're gonna regret it if you join the CASC. So please sign up today and be a part of Canadian comedy history. So now I'm going to bring on Roxanne from the uniform.
All right, hi everybody. Thanks for having me here. I was thinking about when we started working together, Sandra, and I think it was in 2018, because I believe it was 1 year after you wrote that letter that was mentioned earlier. So every time I've met with your membership, I've always been very worried about making jokes that land. But this is the first time that we've done it in this setting where I'm standing up in front of you and essentially in your context and much more than my context. So thanks for having me. So really what I wanted to say today is welcome to Uniform, welcome to the Canadian Freelance Union. We're so thrilled that and I recognize that this has maybe been months in the making and it's been a process. But this is a little bit what Uniform's Community Chapter Project has always been about. It's about recognizing that there are lots of groups of workers and creative people and freelance workers who are facing this challenge of not being able to organize in the traditional way and not being able to get a union as an agent to bargain on their behalf, but still want to build a community of people who are fighting for rights, who are fighting for justice, and who are fighting to make the world a better place for their community. And so the fact that this partnership has really successfully arrived in this place, I think is really great. I wanted to welcome you on behalf of Uniform, on behalf of our leadership, including our national president, Lana Payne, who I work with every day, and make sure that you feel a warm welcome from our union to all of you, whether you're in the room or elsewhere. It is a really tough time out there. So if you watch the news once in a while, you'll see our president. We're fighting Trump. We're fighting tariffs. We're fighting an economic and political, situation that is really challenging. We represent 320,000 members across Canada. 120,000 of those members are in trade-dependent sectors. It means thousands of people who are really worried about what tomorrow brings for their employment. I know that those members, whether they're in auto or manufacturing or aerospace or other specific sectors, whether they are connected to your membership, may seem a little bit distant, but the reality is that we're all in the same union now, and so in some way, that is the kind of solidarity that we want to build. Our union has been instrumental in making sure that workers have a voice in whatever the country is going to do to respond, and we've been advocating to make sure that whatever got us to this situation where we have such a dependence with the United States, that we build a resilient economy and some really strong public policy that gets us, on our way to being a stronger, more independent country, economically and politically. So those are some of the things that we've been working on. I think I wanted to just finish by saying, where do we go from here? The benefit of being part of a union and being connected to maybe folks who aren't in your sectors necessarily is that we can figure out where we go from here together. And there are plenty of spaces where corporate powers talk, where governments and elected representatives talk. And really the benefit of a union is that we can bring folks from different regions, from different areas, from different sectors, and we can figure out what's best for working people in Canada. We're so thrilled to count you as part of that process. We know that you are going to benefit from incredible support from the Canadian Freelance Union. I was involved for a long time with Raul, with Nora, and with others to make sure that was a project that existed for freelancers. So you can fight for that better world. Even if you can't have a collective agreement, there's still lots we can do. And so hopefully through connecting resources, to identifying common struggles, we can do that together. So thanks for having me here. Congratulations. Whoever's going to do the fireside chat. So welcome back to the group.
All right, can we hear it one more time for Roxanne? Thank you so much. And honestly, it does say a lot that she's been so patient with us since 2018 trying to figure this out. So we definitely appreciate that. I'm just going to adjust chairs and kind of talk for a second here. But I want to also say thank you to Josh, our newest board member, for coming up and telling us his story. And thank you to Amy and Drew. Even though they were tiny, their voices were loud and big. And honestly, can we have a round of applause for Jo? She is just pulling up phones, running around. Like, if there's nothing that's like an allegory for Canadian comedy, it's Jo and Burton. So I will say, now we're going to do a fireside chat. If you do I have some questions that are going to be lobbed up for our three wonderful guests today. But if you do have questions, feel free to, I would say, give it to Jo, or you can give it to Nick, and someone can run up with a piece of paper and give it to me. Yeah, we are really top notch here. So I'm going to introduce first our founder. And I came up with little poems for each of you. So I did this on the spot. I just thought it would be a fun thing to do because I've been really into poetry lately. Okay, so our founder, Sandra Badalini, she loves a deep red wine over a dry martini. Give it up for Sandra. And next from Unifor, I actually got to meet her in Montreal. She was hype as Adderall, but as calm as Ritalin. Give it up for Angela Drew Kimmelman. Oh my gosh, I'm rhyming so good right now. And lastly, from the CFU, she actually had a full reimagining of planes, trains, and automobiles to get here today. Thank God she's not in stilettos. It's Nora Loretto. I want you to remember this next time I get introduced. I hope there's a poem. Okay. Wonderful. Welcome. Give it for Nora. Thank you. I saw you getting here just in the nick of time. That's incredible. So, yes? No, really? Oh, damn. Do you need a lift back afterwards? Okay, can someone help figure this out? Okay. All right, cool. So we're just going to kick off the fireside fireside chat. I'm going to pass the mic to you, have you introduce yourselves, talk a little bit about who you are, your role in your organization, and why you're here today, and then I will take out my phone and get to the questions I got.
Wow, okay, wicked. Hi, everybody. I'm Nora. I don't usually get to introduce myself as the president of much because CFU's online. We don't really do too much stuff in person, but I'm the president of the Canadian Freelance Union, and I've been president for, we had a situation where our president went nuts, and so whatever that situation was, I'm so excited for you folks to be joining the CFU because our membership is not funny and quite depressing, actually. And I think that we can really use the help to like fix everyone's problems. You know, years ago we had a woman that comes to us and she's like 73, and she's like, I'm owed a bunch of money. And we're like, okay, how much? It's about $7,000 bucks. And we're like, whoa, that's big money. And we said, well, for what? She said, well, I've been writing these books, these help books, and I don't have a contract for them. And we were like, what? She said, yeah, I agreed to write a self-help book a month for this woman who calls herself the Pink CEO. She's based in Red Deer, Alberta. You might know her. I was like, the fuck are you talking about? And so we got no contract. She shook this woman's hand at a cult gathering in Croatia. And she's like, can you get me my money back? And so Raul and I are like, the fuck can we do with this? Like, no, we can't get your money back. I'm sorry. But you know, let's be creative. Okay, so by the way, when did the contract expire? Like, when are you owed this money from? 2 years ago. 2 fucking years ago. Okay. Well, we won her money back. We won her money back, and it only took, that's right, and it only took threats. It took a lot of aggression on my behalf, some screaming at the Pink CEO. And I called Roxanne and I was like, look, this is stupid, but can you guys buy a full page ad in the Red Deer Advocate calling this woman a piece of shit? And Roxanne was like, we can do that. You're here for it, we'll do anything. So, you know, in one of the final conversations I had with the Pink CEO, I don't remember her name anymore, she's crying and through tears, she says to me, Nora, can I help you with my ex? Can I get you to help me with my ex-husband? You're so good at this. And I said no. And so, and actually, a really, like, this is obviously a true story, this would be an insane thing to make up. The first person to email me when we sent out the announcement about CASC was Rusty. And so she's still a member. She's not doing that kind of work anymore. She's focusing on different kinds of writing. And it's that kind of thing that, yes, the health benefits are good. And yes, you know, if you need libel insurance, big fan of libel insurance over here. I've been sued a couple of times. It's all that's all very important. But the most important thing for me and that I've been involved with the executive has been we've been able to really make a difference to people. And that was a big amount of money. And this past year we won $16,000 collectively for our members. And I mean and I have to say our members are usually making $200, $300, $500 bucks. So that was a lot of situations we were able to get in there. We won Snapchat contracts. We've won other handshake contracts. And so, you know, this is an experiment and we owe a debt of gratitude to Unifor for thinking it could work because it can work, but it takes a lot of hard work. And so I can't wait to have all of your arms in the struggle with us to make even more Pink CEOs cry. I'm not going to look up who this Pink CEO is.
She's getting great advertising right now.
Just buy it. Google it, you'll find it. I'm not going to be as funny as her, so. But that's okay. I'm also really funny, so I'm so glad you guys joined. I'm known to laugh very loud, so that's good. You've been funny, and then I'll just laugh. That'd be great. Great team. Hi, I'm Angela Drew-Kilman. I'm a national representative out of the organizing department with Unifor, and I'm the community chapters liaison for the organizing department. So that's how I get connected with CFU and with CASC. We've been working together for pretty much since I started. So I started about 2.5 years ago. So we've been working together, trying to get this up and running, and we're finally here. It's exciting. I did all of this alongside organizing the first Walmart warehouse in North America. So yeah, 850 workers. So that was huge. So we have that going on, and we also had this going on. So it's been a very exciting time for me, and I'm really, really happy to be here. I'm excited for all of you to finally be unionized. Comedians are joining a union. Who would have thought it? It's amazing. I love it. I'll pass it on to Sandra. Battling.
Thank you so much, Nora and Angela, and your speech off the top for real seemed prepared. It was very good. It's actually not honestly. It felt inspiring to me for sure. Especially because like here we are 8 years later, and we're here and we're bigger than ever. I mean, it almost makes me want to cry right now. Yeah, I spearheaded, these words you use, but I spearheaded this movement by writing a letter innocently to the Prime Minister. I had no intention of lobbying for comedians. That's ridiculous, okay? And so, right? Who wants to do that? And it honestly, when I wrote this letter, it went viral, and then we started meeting with politicians, and they recommended we form an association because they're like, Sandra Bellini can't just go to the parliament and lobby on behalf of comedians. And a group of comedians and Joe came together, and we just were like, let's do it. We had no money, and we just formed. And at that time, NAFTA was being renegotiated. We get a call from some lobbyists in Ottawa, Temple Scott and Associates, these amazing guys. They're just like, look, labor mobility is on the table because in the letter, the two issues I brought up were that we're not recognized as an art form, and it's very difficult for us to cross the border, and we all know this, right? And they're like, look, labor mobility is not the issue. We think that we can, something might happen here. And they're like, we want to work on this with you. We're like, we have no money. They're like, don't worry about it. Okay? And so we basically, they're like, just owe us later. And I know it sounds like an Italian deal. They were not Italian, but really, this is the deal. And, we ended up putting up our own money, really, to pay for some of this stuff and to get the organization started. I went to Ottawa for the very first time. I went by myself with these guys, and boy, did I learn something really hard and fast going to Ottawa. And this world of lobbying, and that what I learned mostly, one of the most amazing things was that most people thought that comedy was recognized as an art form. Okay, and talking to politicians, you really realize that these guys are not looking for issues, right? And they just, it was like more the fact that we were never at the table. Because when the Canada Council for the Arts was formed in the 50s and 60s,
Probably didn't exist.
well, it did, but it was but it was barely in Canada. We were performing alongside strippers.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was what Toronto, yeah, really. And so, it was like, when you look back at that people talking about the arts in Canada at the time, it was very sad. You know what I mean? I love these quotes. And so we were never at that table. We were never at the table. And then fast forward 65 years, 70 years later, here we are. And actually, this is a rights movement. This is how it started. It was the right to be recognized, the right to have a seat at the table, the right to be able to, exist in a way that we can actually make a living. It's still even crazy that I myself, after having started this organization, accept the stupidest deals sometimes. I don't even think, I'm just like, oh, I know this guy, and it's wrong. And in September, we went to the national conference in Montreal, and that was like everything that you could imagine a union meeting would be. Like people yelling, red face, guys from Quebec, it was like the best thing you'd ever seen. Standing ovations, insanity, like it's the comedian's dream, okay? And I realized that weekend that what we do is work. This is work, this is labor, and our labor has a value, and that value needs to be recognized and respected. And it's not right now. It's better because the one thing that when we were, I don't know, maybe a couple of years ago, we had people from across the country be like, hey, listen, I think they were in Alberta, or Winnipeg, I don't know. They're like, you know what?
most shows now, comedians get paid. Okay, that's $20, but we changed that. And so imagine what we're gonna do in 5 years. And like doing this work was just literally it was like it came through me and I had to do it. And all the visions that I've had about where this is gonna go is all coming true. And it's really amazing. And it's just about we have to come together because no festival, no club, especially in this country, is gonna back us up. And now it's up to us to build up because this is all we have. And we can't rely on them because all they're gonna do is keep taking from us. One of the, we'll start the fireside chat after this, but one of the things that I realized too off the top when I first started doing this was that I'd have conversations with all sorts of people, even all over the world. But I remember having a conversation with ACTRA, which is the Actors Union, and I was like, the issues are very similar. And I was like, but I never, and I'm part of that union, let's not call it a union, but you know what it is. I'm part of that union too, and they were like, but I never hear about these issues. And they're like, yeah, because actors don't want to speak up because they don't want to lose work, right? And that was the same for comedians. And guess what? In our silence, everything disappeared. And look at where we are right now. In our silence, in our oh, okay, yeah, we'll do it for whatever, it's disappearing. And now because we're neighbors with this giant, look at the way they dangle whatever they have. All I'm gonna say and we'll start is that we won the War of 1812 and burned the White House down.
All right, thank you. What a kickoff to this fireside. It's actually very indicative of this organization, the way it started, to how it is in stand-up comedy. When you go into stand-up, I started in 2009. There's people in the room that started before me. There's no clear path. There's no clear path forward on how you're going to do this thing, how you're going to get work, develop your voice, who's going to take you on the road, and you get taken advantage of. There's a lot of exploitation, and it's one of those things where unless someone does something about it, nothing gets done about it. And I know for myself, I started at a Yuck Yucks right beside the Hooters in Hamilton, and my second show was at that Hooters, right? And I was getting paid $5 when I started getting paid. And it was brutal. And then fast forward to now where I run a corporate comedy company, the other comedy company, I experienced my first $2,000 an hour day. And there is real ways to actually make a living in this profession, but that's been held by very few people that have festivals and clubs. And, bless them, they're giving us opportunities to find our voice. But this is a time for us to when we're talking about the collaboration of independence, that's what we're really talking about, the idea that we're freelancers, but we're together in this, that we can encourage each other, give each other the even with Unifor right now, we're gonna have the opportunity to showcase internally, so that way we can start getting more comedians, more corporate work. There's a lot of momentum here, but it really requires people wanting to be involved and wanting to step up and get more out of their memberships. So if you do want to be a board member, I'm going to encourage you right now to consider it. If you want to be an ambassador, I'm going to encourage you right now to consider it, because right now is really the time to get some flame in our guts and to go forward with this. So we're going to kick off the fireside. This is really an interesting progression of time that we're looking at. Sandra started the organization, right? She came to Angela and Roxanne and really brokered a deal. What would it look like for us to go to Unifor? And then the CFU was introduced, right? Not just the idea that comedians are artists, but we're freelancers as well. And how does that fit? So I want to ask all of you, and we'll start at Sandra because I think she's the most long-winded. And we'll try to be on it. We're ready. You should see our phone calls. It takes forever. But okay. The question right now is, and this is just for the organization and for our members, why is it the right time right now for this partnership? Why is it now? Why wasn't it 5 years from now? Why isn't it 5 years from now? Why is it right now? And what are we going to be doing with that going forward? And maybe I would add to that, what could the next year look like for all of us as we collaborate?
I think after the pandemic, or during the pandemic, our work changed.
like it's different. Now we have to create online, and it's a whole ballgame that like a lot of us don't even know what to do. I've been struggling really badly with it. And so it almost seems like more than ever, there used to feel like there was more of a community in comedy, you know? And now it doesn't feel like that so much now. I know that even though we have the association, and it's starting to come back, but it was like, we had these lockdowns, there were so many venues that shut down, a lot of these shows in the beginning of the week, especially in Toronto, that were like there for 20 years, you got together with the community all the time, that disappeared. And so I think that right now, because the economy has shifted so much and it's gone online and social media, this is why it's the right time to join this union. And the right time now that we've proven ourselves, we've been around for 8 years, now is the time to really like force, I don't know, how do you force them? But get comedy recognized as an art form, make that happen immediately, but like really, Cliff's vision, and it was a real shift in the organization, was okay, let's teach comedians, let's build comedians to be these independent workers and business people to launch their careers. And so, and the fact that there's all this, like, that was what was a beautiful realization when we went to Montreal. And Cliff and I spoke, and it was probably one of the best, probably, experiences that we had as performers, because we got standing ovations. We're like, oh my God, take it easy. And I cried out. Anyways, whatever. But it was after the fact that people came up to us and said, hey, we've got Christmas parties. We have this. We need comedians. And we're like, oh. And all of a sudden, I'm like, yeah, the union that represents workers got work. And but I'm not like, I'm saying, I know that's one aspect, but I'm just noticing that I have a gig coming up, and I'm like, wow, it's almost like you're getting paid 3 and 4 times more than gigs that you get offered around, because producers are taking a big chunk of that. And I know that there's organizing and coordination that happens for this stuff, but people really are taking big chunks that belong to us. We don't know how much their commission they're charging, and now we're going to see all that sort of disappear and really see the transparency. And yeah.
Yeah, so from Unifor's perspective and why right now, and where we're going for the next year or so, I think right now is the best time because of the shit show that's going on. It's not sorry. With just and you said Quebec. See, I always say it wrong. But anyway, yes, with Donald Trump down south, this is the time for all of us in all different types of sectors in the economy to join forces. Like, you don't understand, there's 320,000 members with Unifor that will be there with you. They just did a rally yesterday in Windsor. Elbows Up rally for protecting Canadian jobs, and members came from all over Canada to Windsor. There was about 1,500 people to Windsor. They had a stage set up. They had a bunch of speeches. It was a big rally to protect Canadian jobs, and that is what Unifor can do, and what the CFU can do for U.S. comedians, because you're not alone anymore. And going forward for the next year, what I see is I really want to work with Raul. He's the organizer with the CFU. I'm an organizer with Unifor. Let's organize. Let's get some more people into CASC and into the CFU, because ultimately that's where we're going to get our voices heard. More the merrier. So I'll pass that over now to the CFU president, Nora.
Yeah, I mean, we would have taken it years ago, right? Like, we would have taken it 5 years ago. We would have taken it at the height of the pandemic, lockdowns. Taking it now, we would have taken it in 2 years. I think, Sandra, like, the way that you describe the comedy world is really the entire creative communications world, right? And 60% of com members, probably maybe even more, maybe more like 70%, are communications workers. I'm about to sign my next book contract for $3,000, and I want to barf over that amount of money. And my agent's like, I can't believe how bad it is. right? Like this isn't publishing. I'm a nonfiction writer. And I'm actually thinking of crowdfunding my fucking advance. Like how absolutely pathetic is that? But that's the reality of a lot of the industries that we work in. And the only way we can change that is through solidarity. You know, we are coming up on 40 years of neoliberal economic policy. And neoliberal economic policy obliterated the sense that we are connected to one another in community. Right? It obliterated the idea that I live for someone else and with someone else, and instead it became I'm by myself. It's myself and my family. And the way that looked economically was a massive transformation of the economy. We got rid of all of the manufacturing in Canada because we couldn't keep up with people that were doing it quote unquote cheaply around the world, and we put all of our eggs into resource extraction, just like Canada looked in the late 1800s. And the transformation that has done has actually completely obliterated Canadian sovereignty, right? They're like, the reason why I think people get nervous when we hear that Trump wants to take us over is because we know we would be fucked, and they would be like, we would be the 51st state within 3 weeks of any kind of attack on us. And part of that is because under the neoliberal economic model, culture doesn't fucking matter. In fact, culture remains a barrier to free market capitalism. So we're all poor, probably, right? I'm just assuming. If you're not, like, God bless you and let's talk outside by the guillotine. But let's say that we're all fucking poor. You know, what year between 1867 and today did Canada make the most amount of profit? Do you know? What year do you think? The number can't hurt your feelings, it's a number. 1930, right? So a year after the crash, things are shitty. People are living in like tents and like pulling their cars with horses. No. Anyone else? 1944, middle of the war. We're at the height of the war industries in 1944. And also the height of socialist parties were in 1943. The CCF comes second place in the Ontario election, freaking everyone out because, of course, Tommy Douglas had just won in 1942 in Saskatchewan, but no. The first year of what? The 1868. No. Yeah. 2000, the last, like 1987? The first depression. No, it got worse than that. How many depressions have there been? The answer, folks, is the year 2022. The year 2022, corporations in Canada made the most amount of profit in the history of Canada. And it's still, I mean, we're still looking at the balance sheets of 2024, but 2024 was on track also to surpass it. There were some industries that did a little less, and the housing market kind of changed a little bit. So 2024 might have been just under 2022. 2023 was also in the middle too, right? So you cannot exist in a society with that kind of economic segmentation and not have crises. And so as cultural workers whose industries have been obliterated to allow for this unbelievable pursuit of wealth, well, we have to organize. We have to be together and we have to unite to be able to fight against this stuff. Because if we actually believe that Canada should exist, it requires culture. And if you ask anybody walking on the street, what is a cultural touchstone in Canada, if they have an answer for you, which they probably don't. But if they do, they're likely to tell you something that made them laugh. Because the heart of culture in Canada has always been a really fucked up comedy, right? We all know that. Like a really awesome and dark, what the hell is wrong with us kind of comedy. And I think that if we aren't putting ourselves into situations where we're able to fight against these massive forces, then we're absolutely fucked. And I'm an optimist, and so I don't think we are fucked. I think that this is the only way that we can do it, and I am so excited to see what happens next year.
Yeah, that's a mic drop right there. Now, I'm going to ask an individual question each, and if anyone here has questions or we have questions online, we can do that right after in a bit of a lightning round. But my question is going to be for you, Angela. It's kind of going off of what Nora just said, because a lot of, we have to be kind of straight up about where we're at as an organization and what we're looking at going forward. Listen, one of the reasons why comedians don't want to join is we don't trust institutions. We really don't trust people. We've been fucked over our entire careers. I know 20, 30-year guys have been just fucked over, right? So now here we are, we're partnering with institutions, right? And so the question's gonna be for you, Angela, is when you have a base of comedians who inherently distrust institutions, how do we build trust with Unifor at this point so that way we can go forward and be like, actually, this is something that I want to fuck with? Because what Nora said, it really is a response to, like, yo, there's people getting much richer than us out there. Let's do something about it. We have kids, we have families. We want to put good groceries on our tables too. There's nothing wrong with that. So, and that's been a big thing about what we talk about. So I think you'd be a great person to kind of answer that, especially being a representative for Unifor.
Yeah, the first thing that came to mind when you asked that question was we're just gonna prove to you that we're a strong union and we're gonna prove to you that we can help you out and actually do the actions that we say we're going to do, right? I think that's the best way you can build trust with, even in relationships, right? You have to prove that you can do the actions that you say you're going to do. So, we're gonna organize. And I'm going to provide whatever help the CFU and CASC need as far as organizing is concerned, because I think that's, as soon as, I know Nick has gone, but when Nick said he wants 16 people, I'm back there going, I want 116 more people, right? Like that's what I want to see. So we're just going to prove ourselves to you, and we're going to gain that trust, and so we can all move forward together.
And my next question is going to be for Nora, because I do want to know, like, how long have you been with the CFU for?
Not the exact since, but I've been a member since 2013.
Okay.
Not exactly since 2015, but as
Yeah, so I know you've been there for a long time. You've been there for a big stretch. You've seen how organizations can go from the growing pains of an early stage. Before we even got to the point of meeting you, we never thought to even call ourselves the F word, right? Comedians didn't call themselves freelancers. We're like, we're artists, we're creators. Like, no, we're workers, fuckfaces. Like, that's what we are, right? So, like, when you have a window into a whole lane of people who have worked professionally as freelancers, who have gone to litigation on behalf of themselves as individuals, who have created products and services for themselves, who've expanded their network of influence. From kind of where you've been to where you are now, can you tell us what that growth has looked like and what people can expect as independent freelancers? Because there's a lot of comedians in the room and online, people watching this later, that are like, I never even thought of it that way. I never even thought of this as I am a one-person business.
Actually, it's really funny because we have a similar issue with entrepreneurs, right? Because we'll talk to people and they're like, oh, but I'm not a freelancer, I'm an entrepreneur. It's like, but it's a fucking fancy word for a freelancer, man. And I'm like, sorry, do you have a boss? No, okay, neither do we, right? We have many bosses. So it is very interesting, and in our membership, it is quite diverse. Like, there are people that are, I would say that, like, if there's a ladder of like success, like the writers are at the bottom and like the web workers are at the top, right? So we have people that make a lot of money, a good living, right down to the writers who are like, oh my God, this is really difficult because the industry is so bad. But through creating community with one another, we can see, well, actually there are ways to still make money that support the work that we're doing, that's not taking away from the work that we're doing. And so growing your freelance practice, like, as someone that has to do this, I have found balancing paid, steady work. So just so you all know, I'm a volunteer for freelancing and I don't get paid. I'm not a paid representative. So I have a steady part-time job and then I get paid nothing to do my writing. And then I also am I'm a podcaster as well. And I always forget I'm a podcaster, but I'm really more of a podcast. Does anyone listen to my podcast? None of you. That's fucking amazing. I'm never in rooms with no one knows the podcast. It's great. Okay, don't worry about it. It's called Till Sandy and Nora Talk Politics. I'm Nora, Sandy Hudson from, originally Toronto, now LA. But we have this experience with the digital platforms. We have the experience, like half of my income comes from Patreon and Substack, which actually frightens me. But the evolution of these platforms, the evolution of understanding how to create some sort of world of work, when the actual world of work that you want to work in is falling apart, which in my case is journalism. It's a process, and watching people grow and watching their careers grow is really exciting. And I think with comedians, because it's a critical mass of a specific kind of worker, I'm actually really excited to see what CASC does. That you folks don't have to worry about shit like, like your accountant and your, the busy work or the administration work of an organization. Like that's the real strength that CFU brings, is that we've been doing this now. CFU was founded in 2006, and so we have been doing this for a long time. And there's still a lot we need to work out. Raul is our first full-time organizer, actually. We've never, that was only been a year and a bit. And so we have a lot to work out too, and I'm so excited that you folks are gonna be at the table with us.
And if you have any questions, feel free to get them ready. Sandra, question here, and then we'll go to the audience and online if there's any in the chat there. But Sandra, at this point to where we are, so for those that don't know, Sandra, she was our first president, the founder of the association. Now she's a liaison between us and Unifor and CFU and kind of taking more of a role in kind of growing the partnership. But I want you to speak specifically towards, with this new role of yours, and with what you just said about growing the comedy community, I will admit that the comedy community in Canada has definitely taken a hit. I almost feel like we were better when we were all just bickering on Facebook boards and talking about getting ripped off for an Xbox, But those who don't know. But it's one of those things where we definitely lost a bit of our spirit. And I think that is felt across the board. I think something happened in the pandemic where we got dampened, where a lot of people bowed out. Some of the funniest people we know don't work anymore. And it's one of those things where now that you can have a new role yourself going into Unifor and CFU and helping us build more relationships, how can we reinvigorate the community to kind of fun with this and be around it?
Wow. How do we reinvigorate ourselves? Doing more of these things. Like now I'm really inspired by today, and it's encouraging the community to join, and it's encouraging all each other to create more firesides, more conversations, encouraging comedians to come out to union events. Because I'm telling you, when we went to that conference in September, I was blown away. I don't think I ever felt that kind of support in my entire life. And oh my God, what was her name? Oh, I can't remember. Anyway, she's a very prominent union organizer and member of the union and in the Indigenous community. And I'm like, is this crazy for me to say? But I feel like this is what Jesus was talking about. She said, yes, and we hugged. I know it sounds crazy, but it really felt like, it's like you talk to people and you don't have to, there's no fronts. There's just we're all workers and we get what you're talking about. It was like finding our people. And that was huge. I think that we just have to, how do we reinvigorate? It's let's drop the old world is over. I don't I'm if you believe in astrology or whatever, it's this old age that was all about competition and darkness is dead. So either we just let it go, and the new world is about ascension and coming together. The old structures have disappeared. They're dead. They're just pretending. They still have the media, and they want to keep us in this matrix of control, and it's bullshit. It doesn't exist. And so the way we come together is we support each other and we serve one another. Because it's an illusion that we are just ourselves. We just work for ourselves. That's not true. It's competition is anathema to creation. And this is all this is. This planet, this universe is in creation. So just let's come together. We will be more prosperous. We will be funnier. We will be stronger by coming together. That's all the prophets that I know I'm going on a spiritual rant, but it doesn't matter. What we do, this is spirit. Comedy is spirit. You know what I mean? It's our spirit self that comes to connect with people, to make them laugh. It's I always thought, I don't know how you feel, right? I know how you felt before you came up here. Shit, I didn't prepare anything. The minute he gets on stage, his spirit comes alive and he's got it. That's his spirit. That's beautiful. That's a gift. We have these gifts as comedians And sometimes we don't acknowledge it, but it's so powerful. Let's not be afraid of it. We are some of the funniest people on the planet. Like, comedy is this country's legacy, and we are going to be making the best and funniest content the world has ever seen. I believe it, and I know it's going to happen.
I'll just say one thing to add on to Sam's thing. The world right now needs comedy. We need it because, like I said, it's a shit show. So we need comedy to lift us all up. So that's why I think that this is reinvigorate your entire sector. You're a sector now because you're in a union. So
Yeah. One last thing. No, I just want to say that you're reinvigorating, because him and I had a conversation a couple of weeks ago, and I was complaining about something that happened to me, and he was like a coach. And so he coached me into what to do, and it was amazing.
Deal with it? Yeah, okay. Good. Good to hear. Yeah, it's really interesting because, I learned a lot myself, doing stand-up from 2009 till now. I've seen a lot of different iterations of what this has been. I've done club work, theaters, tours, festivals, and also run my own company. And from all those different experiences, one of the things that I think a lot of people they don't know what they don't know. There's so many comedians that like what I said when I said the funniest people we know aren't working. I really think that's an absolute travesty, and they deserve to know. But I'm ADHD myself. There's a lot of people with neurodivergence, dyslexia, different blockers. How do they know how to market themselves? How do you learn marketing? You never went to college. How do you learn how to use the internet if you're in your 50s? But you're funnier than ever before. You get better with age, And it's there's so many people, sorry, maybe it's just at 60s or something. But there's a lot of people that have the most ridiculous blockers to having a career for themselves. And so where I come into the picture is I believe in resources. I believe, hey, you may not be prepared, but you can be equipped. You can be resourceful. You can have a place where you can go find the thing you need. And if you don't know what that is, you can ask one of us and we can point you in the right direction. And I just don't think we do it alone. And that's why, for me, when we were talking about this whole process, I said to the board, I said, this feels right. This feels like the right time to really be extending our partnerships and not being afraid to say that we want this to be a positive sum game. We want this to be a win-win thing. We're really kind of done with the win-lose. This ain't Survivor. You're not stuffing out my torch. Shut up. Right? So, now, do we have any questions from the audience? Yes, sir. I'll admit to an island.
Smallest board in the province. Just signed a contract with the principal, started changing the contract and giving us other duties. So I went to the director and told him that your principal violated the contract. He said, I support my principal. I said, well, he's violating the contract. So after a conversation with the head office of OSSTF, I went back to him and I said, look, we're going to go to agreements. It's going to cost your school board $10,000 to go to grievance. And OSSTF would like to crush a little school board like yours for violating a contract, just to use you as an example. So when you use your story of what you can do, the collective of comics need to know that the bigger umbrella offers so much to our working situation. Now, I'm a comic that's got a pension. And I feel really fortunate for that. A lot of Canadians don't. But I want to see this organization really grow. And I really hope that we see things in a big picture. Taking on the umbrella that people are offering is really wonderful. And I think we have to think large, not 60, not 260, thousands of new members in the next couple of years. And I think that's completely attainable as well. And I'm sorry, I have to leave.
No, I like that you're a unicorn of comedy. You're a comedian with a pension. We want to hear from you. So,
Which school board was it? And my parents were in Rainy, so I was like, oh, I wonder if it's in Rainy River, but that's pretty small up there too. So one other quick story, one of the campaigns cases that we won, which was, I also didn't think was winnable, but it was a really good example of this, where we had a member say, this was a member's photographer, and he's taking photos for a homes magazine, right? A homes magazine out in the prairies. And the magazine had a 20th anniversary edition, and they reran old covers of the magazine, which you would think is like totally normal. This guy calls us, he's like, they gotta pay me for my rights. Like, those are my photos. And I was like, you were paying before? Yeah, but I didn't release my rights to this stuff. So we did a bit of legal work, a little bit of legal research. We looked at the Federal Copyright Act, like, oh yeah, you're entitled to $7,000 actually in every one of these reprints. So we go to the Tiny magazine, we're like, this guy's entitled to $7,000. He's willing to take $700. And they're like, done, check, no problem, right? They wash their hands of it. And so it's that kind of thing where we're able to be creative and do our best to find ways to really threaten. We can bankrupt you, or you can give what our member is willing to accept. We've been fighting. I'm not sure if anyone announced the services. One of the services that you get as a member is something we've been fighting for many, many years. You mentioned pensions, and I want to mention where we are at. I'm trying to create a pension. That's my next big dream. So we got an employee assistance program, the EAP. Most unionized workers have an EAP. This, unlike the insurance where you do have to pay because the insurance depends on, do you want the Cadillac of insurance, or do you just want to have like $10 sent to your parents if you die? You get to pick that. But the EAP is free, and it gives all of our members some number of hours, usually 5 hours of free access to counseling services, couples counseling, some nutrition advice, financial services. You probably know more. That sounds like what else? That's pretty much it. Yeah, some therapy services. And so this is huge, and it took us many years to figure out with Unifor how to give this to workers who don't have an employer. So this is something that you actually have. If you're a paying member of CASC, you have this as of today. So make sure you look into the EAP. We're looking at trying to figure out how to get an opt-in pension for people to be able to make their own pension contributions. And I hope maybe in 2 years, I'm going to be really realistic about this. We actually have some good news on that. But if you're interested in that kind of struggle, this is more of a negotiation thing with pension firms to see what we get. But we've talked with a couple, two so far, and they're like, oh yeah, this should be possible. We can do this.
Amazing. Yeah, and that's the thing. A lot of comedians just don't know how much money they're leaving on the table. So yeah, we have people to help threaten, which is really wonderful, right? We're gonna wrap this up. But do we have any more quick questions or anything online, Joe? Quickly before we do.
Yes, question online.
Yes.
With the increase in CASC membership dues, does that include membership in the freelance union, or will there be further dues from CFU to access their membership benefits?
Great question. Okay, so the annual due for the Canadian Freelance Union is $125. That has not increased in more than 10 years. So we have a bit of our own financial issues because it's just so low. CASC members created the pay into CASC at $120, right? We did not want the situation where you joined CFU and then had to pay more money. So what we're doing is we're honoring that $120 as your COM membership for a year. And then you're going to be part of our general meetings to have discussions, because our next general meeting is going to talk about fee increase. Can we do this? How do we do this? Is there a low income fee? We already have a tiered fee increase, a substructure where you make above certain amounts of money, self-reported, we don't audit you. You can pay more, but that baseline is $125. So the short answer is no, but there are some services that you do have to pay for. And so those are the opt-in services, health, dental, and media insurance. I don't believe there's anything else we have to pay for though. Look at real liability insurance. Yeah, but the commercial liability insurance is one of the ones that our members really need if you do shoots, and you're required to actually have commercial liability insurance. But all of those insurances are opt-in because you have to pick off the menu of what exactly you want. So yeah, so no, you're paying $120 for the next year. Don't tell our other members, and then it'll be for sure $125, and then you'll actually remember to be part of general meetings to have conversations about do we increase it from there, or do we tough it out and keep it at $125 and do we can with that.
And I also think there's going to be ways for us to, as we gauge more corporate work, if there's ways that we can do a percentage that goes back to the organization or something like that that helps us alleviate some costs and those kind of things. So I think there's definitely.
Yeah, and on that, if you do union work, we really encourage people to add the union dues to your contract with the union work, so you get paid for the whole year. Right, you can just add, we've got percentages, we've got late fee ideas, all this stuff that you can add into contracts.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to talk about really quickly about the EAP. I've used EAP services myself. They are really useful, and I'm starting to think comedians might need therapy. So, like, you know, I'm just throwing it out there. I'm starting to get that inkling. Do you have anything else online, Joe? I don't want to bulldoze them.
Second question from same person. If we have multiple freelance jobs, including comedy, can we register with CFU as more than one?
Absolutely, yes. And so we have 10 sectors, I believe. And the vast majority of our members are a member of at least 2 of those sectors. Now, you don't really have to do anything different. Like, CASC is very organized, and so being involved in CASC is like, you can do that. But if you're a comedian and also a translator, we can connect you with the translator community that's among our membership. And since we've announced this partnership, we've had members of CFU who didn't know about CASC, who are comedians or doing comedy work, become a member of the caucus. So yes, we tag everybody in our system. So we're working on adding everybody, and we'll make sure you're properly tagged on all of the different kinds of work that you do.
And one of the things, as we're growing this relationship, I am hoping that we can do even like more virtual talks and stuff like that to just get as much information out there as possible. I want us to be really transparent and constantly sharing wins. And I also think this is one of the biggest wins we've ever had. Because from this point forward, we're just so much more organized, and we have direction, and we have people up our ass with emails. It's wonderful, right? It's a good thing for us because comedians are not historically organized. So I want to say thank you for everyone that's joined us. If we can hear it for our fireside panel. I'm really excited for the future of CASC and our relationship with Uniform to CFU. I think this is going to be some really great steps forward. If you have any questions, what's the email that they can send the questions to?
info@canadianstandup.ca.
info@canadianstandup.ca, www.canadianstandup.ca for your membership. Please join, and not just join members, but like talk to us and see how you can really get involved. Let's do some cool shit together. Thank you so much. Have a good night.